Welcome, everyone, to episode 9 of the Service Based Business Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Moreland, and today we're going to be talking about branding and branding yourself as a service based business. I think I'm going to go into this, might be one of my most detailed episodes. I feel like this is one that really doesn't just apply to people who are just starting out. A lot of times, that's what my content is about. Kind of who it's targeting, but this one I feel like can be targeted to I guess it is kind of targeting people who are just starting out, but it also can apply to other people. It can also apply across like the entire service industry, not just lawn care, which is often what I talk about. So, that's what this episode is going to be about. A couple announcements before we get started. First of all, this podcast is officially on Spotify. So to all my Spotify listeners, hello, welcome. It's glad to have you here. I've been wanting to put this podcast on Spotify for, as long as I've been doing the podcast. That's always been a goal. And I only ever knew like ways to do it paid until y'all know Marquand, had him on the podcast before. He actually introduced me to to Anchor. Is a free tool by Spotify where you can put your podcast on Spotify and then also on Anchor. So I did that, and now we're on Spotify, so I'm super happy. Shout out Marquand for that. And yeah, that's kind of we're on Spotify now. Another little announcement is that I'm going to be doing a off-topic episode here in the next couple of weeks. And I said this, I feel like, in the first episode, that I wasn't always going to do. I also wanted the podcast to be fun and just to be about whatever I wanted it to be about. And, its focus is definitely like, service-based businesses. That's why it has the name it has. But I did also want to do, on occasion, just more fun episodes that aren't super like as focused on things. So probably gonna have an off-topic episode coming in the next couple of weeks. We're gonna have a guest on with that. That's actually why I'm doing it, because I'm having a buddy of mine who's gonna come on, and yeah. So, anyways, that's the end of that. So let's jump right into it with some general branding things. Now, there's really more that I probably could add to this topic of like general branding, but I just wanted to kind of mention a few things. The first one is finding a name, and coming up with a name can be an area where people get tripped up. People don't know what to do. They might think they have a name, they're like, or they might really just be completely blanked on a name. So first things first is like, what are you doing? Think about that. What kind of a business are you? Are you a landscaper? Are you a barber? Are you a photographer? What are you doing? That's the first thing is what are you doing? Another thing is, are you filling a niche? Is your business broad? Are you just a landscaper, lawn care person? Or are you niche where you're like, I don't know why. Are you just like a photographer in general and you do all sorts of photography? Or are you specifically like a wedding photographer, right? That's something to think about when you're thinking about your name. Is you might want to be, instead of just Bob's Photography, you might want to be Bob's Wedding Photography or something like along those lines, right? Another thing to think about as well is, and this does kind of depend on what you're doing, is are you always just going to be your one location? Do you ever plan on taking your business and having multiple locations, franchising, those kinds of things? If that's ever something you might be wanting to do, you have to keep that in mind when you're thinking about your name, because you're not going to want to be, Bob's Photography if you've got 50 people aren't going to want to open their own Bob's Photography if they're not Bob, right? So that's something to think about as well. Is what is your name? Great Clips, hair barber place, right? Hair salon, whatever you want to call it, right? Like if it was freaking Jake cut your hair or something, whatever, people wouldn't want to like open their own per se. I don't know if Great Clips franchises, but it's an example, right? So that's something to think about as well, is where do you see your business going do you see you opening up more locations than just your one? And if not, that's totally okay. That's pretty common in the service industry that, franchising and opening multiple locations it's not quite as popular as like when you're selling like Target or like a chain restaurant. Like those are very, there's tons of those out there. But things like a landscaping company, there's not always like chains of landscaping companies as an example. So those are just some things to keep in your mind when you're thinking about a name. One very, very important thing is don't overthink this, okay? Come up with a name and you're going to be fine, all right? Give yourself 2 weeks. I forget where I heard this. I think it was I was watching something about like a food business, and the guy was like giving tips or whatever when you're starting up your own food business, and he was like, give yourself 2 weeks. He was like, all my students, I give them 2 weeks, come up with a name. And I think that's really, if anything, that's too long, right? But if you're, if like right now specifically when I'm thinking about like the landscaping industry, right now there's going to be the next few months where there's not really, you're not mowing grass for the next few months, at least in my area, right? And so you have 2 weeks to come up with a new name or to come up with a name, right, for your business if you want to get started in the spring. Something else, it might not be as like time sensitive as when you're starting. Again, like photography, sure, you might not have as many people who are ordering and wanting photography in the winter months, but still, like, I feel like business is probably still there. I mean, I don't know photography very well, so don't think I know. That's not my area. But so just give yourself like 2 weeks max. Find a name. You're done. Then that's it. You gotta pick a name. All right, do that. If you're a procrastinator, you will hopefully pick something by then. So just give yourself 2 weeks. And then another thing to think about is, and this is kind of a marketing thing a little bit, and it's what are you? When I think about lawn care, there's this kind of stereotype of the $20 guy. My last guy did it for $20. Okay, so that's like a specific kind of stereotype of like the guy who does everything cheap. So, I totally do not generally like that kind of a person. I think that person can be really bad for the industry as a whole. The lowballer is actually what we're going to just call that. The lowballer. I don't think you should be the lowballer for very long, if ever. If you're just getting started, you don't really know pricing-wise, fine. Okay, whatever you're learning, right? But you got to think, what are you, I guess? Are you, going to go with a professional look? Are you going to kind of buy into being a part-time worker or like a teenage worker? I feel like this really doesn't apply very much, but I have this experience, I guess, and like the way that I market myself, or the way I have marketed myself and the way I'm currently marketing myself, but that's going to be changing pretty soon, has really been, I'm a teenager doing this on the side, and that could be really great for some things. People might be more willing to hire you to do something, especially when I think about like lawn care and snow and stuff, is that people are more likely to hire you kind of in that way. If that, for some people, that resonates with them more, like, oh, I would so love to hire this, teenager to come cut my grass or whatever, right? So that's something to think about, is how are you going to generally brand yourself. And of course, most people are going to go with the professional look, and there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, it's great. There's a reason why a lot of people do that. If you're a professional, you're a professional. Yeah, good things. So that's just like a few, I guess really only two like general branding things, but yeah. So I feel like another really important thing when you're thinking about branding as a service-based businesses, understanding that you are a local business. Now, in some cases, of course, like there are outliers where you will have chains or you'll have franchises, like I've kind of said in the name thing, of a business, but oftentimes, or of a service business, but oftentimes there's one, your one location, your average barbershop is just a one barbershop, right? Same thing like a photography business or like, landscaping. These are the ones I keep going back to. I would not quite say the same thing for like a junk removal company, but junk removal companies, usually you got your big players, but there are local junk removal companies, right? and other types of service businesses, there are local businesses as opposed to a corporate, we'll put it that way, as opposed to a more corporate business. And so marketing yourself when you are just a small local business is a little different than marketing yourself when you are a big corporate company, you have multiple locations, things of that nature. And so one thing that's really, really important when you're just a smaller business, your local business, is realizing that your brand and reputation matter. One thing I like to say a lot on here is that people talk, and it's very true. People talk all the time about, if you did the service for them and someone is really happy with it, they're going to go and tell their friends or family or whatever. And so understanding that your reputation matters is very important, especially when you're local. Target as an example of like a place, as an example of another business. Does their reputation matter? Yes. But if one person has a bad experience and they go and they tell their friends and family, maybe 2 out of the 10 people stop shopping at Target, right? But when you're a smaller business, and especially when you're a service business, if you have a bad experience, you're not going to want to hire that business again, or you're not going to want to go and do work with that business again as a consumer, right? So understanding that you need to do good work, you need to have a good image. You need to, just your business needs to be good, I guess, if that makes sense. And that, there are lots of things about that, having good communication, things of that nature, being, the customer liking you is important. That's kind of the main thing I'm saying here, is that your brand and your reputation matter, and they're very important when you're a small local business. And I feel especially when you are a service-based business. One thing about that is getting your brand out there. And with that, I feel there are lots of good ways to do that. One good way is, think about it this way, especially when I think about landscaping. I think if I'm out here if I'm just out here mowing, there's, my plain truck parked in front of a lawn, in front of property, I am not really advertising while I'm working. Sure, maybe someone thinks that I was hired to do that, but to the average person, I look like I could just be living there, or whatever, right? And so having, like your truck as an example with a logo on it or a sticker on it or something that says who you are, having a uniform as another example, or, shirts, same thing, right? Are really good ways to get your logo and your brand out there. And people automatically know then when they see you that you're a business and that you're not just like some, people know that right away, right? And so that can be a really good way. It's basically, it's free advertising. Like, obviously you have to pay for the, having the thing done, but it is, like free advertising. And another way to, and this does vary with this one, is yard signs. If you do like a big, for example, we'll take hang Christmas lights. If you hang Christmas lights and that's a really good example of a job or of a service where yard signs can be a really great way of advertising, because you go and you do this amazing light job. It looks amazing, of course, like you do a great job doing it. And then you have, 3-4 yard signs in the yard, on the edges of the yard, where people who drive by, those lights look really good, and I would love to have that done on my house. And they see instantly who did it, right? So yard signs can be really good for that. Of course, other businesses, not really as much, right? Like if you do interior painting, and you have a yard sign, sure, it's advertising, but there's no instant way for someone to see your work. So for some things, yard signs are really great. Maybe landscaping, maybe smaller, maybe construction projects, maybe like exterior painting. Think about that. What did I say? Christmas lights earlier, things of that nature, where you're doing the work and people can instantly see the work and they see your name. And those can be, like, yard signs as an example of that, are really good. And another thing with that, another way of getting your brand out there is getting tagged on social media. This can be a really great way going to grow your business. Thinking back to photography, if you take and you do this job for a customer, right? And they go and they post these pictures on social media. That's cool, but make sure that they know if first of all, you should be giving them your information, like your social medias, when you're done with the job or whatever, right? That's a really great way. Then someone photos taken by, they tag you, right? And then people who, oh, those are really great pictures, they can go and look on that, on that post, and they can see, okay, you did it, right? And then that applies for some businesses more than others. Again, like I said, photography, I feel like that really applies to, like a junk removal company, not so much. But it might, it could apply. Someone could go and write, positive a thing about you, post on social media and tag you, right? Of course, this can also backfire. Keep this in mind. This can also backfire. Someone can be really unhappy with your work and go and write, something not so nice and tag you in it. But I think that, like, telling your customers, okay, these are my social medias, feel free, whatever. Just so they have them, they can follow you, and they can also get updates. And then that's benefits as well. Like, of course, not just like tagging you and then getting customers, but of course you can update those customers on promotions you have or things of that nature. So those customers may turn into repeat customers. They follow you on social media or whatever, and of course they're going to be seeing things you got going on, and that might entice them to hire you again, or you got a promotion, whatever. Another thing in understanding that you're a local business is being a part of your community. Don't be afraid to give free services every now and then, or to get out to community events, sponsor your community. If you know a community event, and someone reaches out, would you like to sponsor us? Sponsor it, dude. It's free advertising for you. So be a part of your community. I think being a part of your community is really important, and especially when you're a small local business. If you go out and you're at these, community event, or you do good things for the community, people are going to start to know you, and you'll be, you'll be the guy. Like, I think back to my interview with Marquand, I think he talked about this as well, is that in his community, he's kind of known, like, when you need a DJ, call Marquand, right? So that's a really good example as well of being a part of your community and how it can have benefits for you, because people in that community or in your community, they're just going to know, they're going to know you, right? You're the guy for this or that or the other thing. And, that doesn't always quite apply as much, especially if you are in a competitive market. There might be two competing, landscaping businesses. So you might not just be the guy necessarily, but, still, it applies. Be a part of your community. People are going to know you. People are going to be more likely to hire you. They know that you are a business who cares about the community, and that for a lot of people can they're going to have a positive image of you. It's going to improve your reputation, which, going back to what I said, your reputation matters a lot when you're a small business, and especially when you're a small local service-based business. All right, so another thing when it comes to branding is your logo. And this is a smaller detail, and it's very important to not overthink your logo. Take the time that you need to create a good logo, to get a good logo done, but don't overthink it too much. Don't stress too much about, oh, this logo looks, maybe it could be, like, don't do that too much. Like, a little bit is okay. Again, take the time you need to create a good logo, because it's going to stick with you and stick with your business. But you don't need to overthink it too terribly much. It's just going to lead you to be stressed. And in the end, you're probably not going to see the benefit of, was your logo, this shade of green or that shade of green. Like, sure, maybe it would have made a difference, but it's, and I understand, like, it's important to have a logo that you like, that you're proud of, that you're happy with, all those things. Again, that's why I say take the time you need, but you don't want to stress too much about it. You don't want to overthink it too much. With that being said, some more logo things. You kind of have two options when it comes to a logo. Is you can either make it yourself or you can hire someone. If you're going to hire someone, I definitely recommend things like Fiverr. I think freelancer.com is another one. Or hiring someone which is actually what I would encourage you to do if you do know someone who does like graphic design, is to hire someone that you know. And I definitely think that's a good way to go, to do that, because you know that person in person. They're gonna want to do a good job for you, and that can have some negatives as well. You know, you might be less likely to tell them, "Oh, can you change it?" Because I don't like you. You don't want to tell. You might not want to necessarily say to that person who is your friend, "I don't like what you created for me." If it's a random stranger, you might be more like, you might be a little more nitpicky. That's fine. You just got to understand that you have to do that. You got to create something that you like, and that's just this little mindset thing. But I definitely encourage you, if you know anyone who's doing graphic design work, to go ahead and to at least try and work with them, right? At least give it a shot. If it doesn't end up working out, that's it is what it is, right? But that's also going back, and instead of funneling your money to, or it's not funneling your money, like spending your money on some random dude, you're at least putting it back in your community a little bit, into your friendly group, whatever. Of course, you can always make the logo yourself. I used Design Evo to make my first logo that I have used for my business for a couple years now. Not what I wanted to say. Another thing you can use is Canva, I believe. There are other logo makers out there. If you literally Google logo maker, if you got Adobe, you can use Adobe. I'm a broke boy. I don't got Adobe, but Design Evo is a really good one. You can get a free version of your logo, and especially if you're kind of just like in the very beginning stages, you're maybe just like doing a little bit of testing with things. You can use a free version of the logo. It doesn't look very good. It's not going to be able to be transparent, at least with like Design Evo as an example. But you can always upgrade it down the line, and you can get the good high quality or transparent background version on Design Evo. So definitely recommend. Those are kind of your two options, right? I personally, the first time I ever did it, I just made the logo myself. But as I'm looking to create something a little different, I am looking to actually hire someone I know, hopefully, to do some work for me. So if you are going to make your own logo, or even if you're not going to make your own logo, either way, they're kind of just some design choices and things that I want to go over. And so the first thing is that, like, simple and modern logos are popular right now. Think about, like, the Pringles man has been rebranded a little bit to be more simple. So creating simple and modern logos, that's what's in right now. And personally, I really like just overall simple logos. I don't think there's any reason why you need to overcomplicate things too much. Not that you can't, but I definitely think simple is good when it comes to a logo. Color choices do matter a little bit, so you can go and look up online a color meaning chart or color symbolism chart or whatever, and those things are true. Oftentimes people do associate different colors with different things. It's just how it is. And so using colors to your advantage can be good. And you don't always have to think about it that way, but it can be something that, it should be something you keep in mind a little bit as you're making a logo and thinking about colors. And there are other things that go into choosing colors, of course, than just like, oh, what is going to be its psychological effect. But, it's something to keep in mind when you are creating a logo and thinking about colors. Your content should incorporate your brand or your business. It should resemble it. And what I mean by that is, like, if you are a photography company, you should maybe have something that resembles photography. I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory, but it's important. And another thing that you can do, of course, with that is incorporate a niche. If you are, going back to that, a wedding photographer, if you're a wedding photographer, maybe you can incorporate the fact that you are a wedding photographer into your icon, into your image for your logo. Of course, like your logo might have your name in it, but for just like that image portrait, maybe there's a way that you incorporate that niche into the image. Of course, you don't have to, but it is something to think about if you really are, if you really like that, if that niche is really where you're focusing. So another quick thing, again, with design choices is you might want to I recommend creating 3 versions of your logo. This is what I've done, and you don't necessarily need to do it. And that's, I'm going to say image, icon, same thing in this case right now. An image and text, and a banner. So I'm going to use Target as an example here Target, for example, has the bullseye. That's their image. Now, in Target's case, the banner and the image and text are kind of the same. Well, not really. A little bit. So think about Target again. They have the bullseye. That's their image. Image and text is like the logo, and then the image, and then the text somewhere. The name Target. I should maybe say, you guys can see what I'm doing with my hands if you guys are watching a video. Anyways, you got like Target, the logo, and then you have underneath that the word Target, right? And that, I think they do use that for something, but that's definitely something I recommend you have a logo that is that. And then on top of that, something that might be useful, it's kind of useful in more rare cases per se, is a banner. Target kind of uses this, going back to that Target example, literally on the front of their stores, they have the image, and then right next to it is the word Target, as opposed to like under it. And when you're creating things for your website, which is what we're going to talk about next, having that banner was something that I decided to do, to have that banner image. And it's basically just like a rectangle. You have like your image, and then you have words next to it as opposed to like underneath it, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Those are 3 things that I recommend, like 3 ways that I recommend having your logo. You'll incorporate those different ways. So the next thing is websites. When you are thinking about your website, you kind of have 2 options. You can either hire it out or you can do it yourself. If you're going to hire it out, I want to say for like a rough number that hiring out a website and having someone else create your website for you is going to run you at least $1,000. Of course, there might be some exceptions to that, but I feel like the average price that I hear is around $1,000. And hiring out, of course, you don't have to do any of the work, and that's really cool, like good, right? Like if you are short on time, you really don't have the skills for it, that's okay. But I definitely encourage people to learn how to build their own website and build their own website. Like that is definitely what I recommend people do. If you're redoing your website and you are a bigger business, then you might want to have people who do that for you. You as the owner might not really have the time to sit down and redesign your entire website when you're already an established business and you've got work going on. So that I completely understand. If like that's the case, that's where you're at. Hiring out is also is a good way to do that. But I definitely encourage people when they're first starting out, first creating their website, to do it themselves. And of course, having a website is very important. Central hub for all your information, all your social medias, everything. People can reach you, contact you, all that stuff. So if you don't have a website, you should definitely be getting a website. It's not something you need like right off the bat. Excuse me. It's not something you need right off the bat, but it's definitely something I recommend you have within the first few years at least of your business. So if you're going to create your own website, first of all, let's talk about it, right? So you're going to have to learn. Again, I just understand that what you're getting yourself into is you're going to have to do some learning. And I think that knowing how to create your website is a really good skill. I think it's something everyone should know how to do. And creating your website is going to allow you to have a little bit more of a personal touch on your site. You have that, and you're going to know how to update and change things on your website yourself. So if you need to go in and make a small change, you're going to know how to do that right away because you built the dang site yourself, right? And another thing is that you don't need to know how to code or some super advanced tech skills. Like it's a fairly simple thing to do. I feel like nowadays especially, like you don't need to know how to code or do anything fancy. So creating your own website, I definitely encourage you to do it. And I want to get into how you can do that. And me personally, I just used YouTube. I found a video by a man who goes by Web Yoda, and he had like a 3-hour video. This is during like COVID when I was doing like school at home, and I watched through the video, like, at least the beginning of the video, first hour and a half, 2 hours, the video myself, just watched through it, saw what kind of content, what kind of things I needed to do just to get a general idea. And then I went and I again watched through the video and just followed along and made my website. And I definitely recommend, if you like don't know how to start Web Yoda, pretty cool. Definitely encourage you to go check him out. He also had a discount code for hosting and such, and it was a really good discount code. I just want to say that right now. He introduced me to HostGator, which is the hosting platform, and then I built the website with WordPress using Elementor, which is a plugin. So WordPress is like the site builder. Elementor is a plugin where you actually do the site building, if that makes sense. So that's what I use, and I got a good discount on that hosting and such because of Web Yoda, because he had a good code, a good like discount code. So definitely encourage, go check out Web Yoda, and that's where that third logo, that banner I ended up using. Like that thing was, he was like, oh yeah, you should have 3 versions of your logo, and he went through, if you're starting from scratch on your logo, there's actually where I found Design Evo, is I was following the Web Yoda tutorial, and that's what he used. So if you don't have a logo and you're looking to do logo and website kind of around the same time frame, that's not a bad idea. Again, if you watch the Web Yoda video, like I did at least, like I did it all in one. He literally designed the logo. I don't know if he designed the logo when, like, in the video, but like it kind of went over what you could use and stuff like that. And he went over creating the 3 different versions of the logo at least. So again, shout out Web Yoda. Another thing with websites is that creating your own website is that there's tons of free information and tons of free stuff online, like tons of free templates and plugins and things of that nature. And of course, there's tons of free information and all that good stuff. Tons of it is out there for free, tons of it out there for paid, but you can definitely start and make a website for under $500. I think in total on my website when I started, I spent around $350, I think, and that was for like 3 years of my site basically. So I definitely recommend make your own website, do some research, do some learning, and just go for it. The last topic that I want to get into is social media. Of course, had to know it was coming, right? Social media. Let's talk about it. So I definitely think that when it comes to a service-based business, again, like I've talked about kind of throughout the entire episode, is when you're a smaller business, small local business, is I believe that Facebook and Nextdoor are definitely better than Instagram and TikTok for your business. And I will give some examples as to why a little bit here. And so I don't think that Instagram and TikTok are necessarily bad, but I definitely think it's harder to connect with your community per se. Facebook and Nextdoor, they're very local community focused. Oftentimes, I feel like they're more so than Instagram and TikTok at least. And they have Facebook groups, for example. Well, Nextdoor is community focused. That's literally the point of the app. Facebook, of course, you have Facebook groups for neighborhoods, and that's a really good place where you can go and get in these groups. Get in the group for your neighborhood, and you can post about your business and all that good stuff. And again, Nextdoor too, same thing. You can get out there and post about your business. So, posting on these sites, on these social medias, is definitely something you should be doing. Something I'm not very good at posting on. Something I'm not very good at doing is posting on Facebook and such. Some things you can post are pictures of your work, promotions, seasonal services, business updates, community events, etc. So those are just like some ideas for what you can post on your Facebook page or on your Nextdoor or whatever. Because oftentimes I feel like that's a thing, is you don't know what to post. You're like, oh, I should be posting on Facebook, but what should I be posting? Well, maybe post some pictures of your work. If it's, like, go back to the easy example of landscaping. Maybe you have a promotion where it's, 25% off your first mow in the month of May. I don't know. Right. So there's an example of a promotion. You post about the promotion, of course. Seasonal services. Maybe it's, it's August, it's getting to be fall time. You got landscaping business, post about, you're doing fall cleanups, gutters, whatever you do for fall services, you can post on your Facebook. Business updates. Maybe you're going to be, I don't know, there's some update, right? Maybe you're not going to be taking on any new customers for the next season, or maybe you're going to be downsizing or something. I don't know, right? General business updates. Post those on Facebook. Community events, again, like posting, hey, we're sponsoring da-da-da-da-da, or hey, we're going to be doing da-da-da-da, or that free service thing. Do a mini giveaway. Hey, we're going to do a free, again, a free fall cleanup, or, we're giving away, 3 free fall cleanups to people in the community, this season. All you got to do is just enter your email address or something, and you can get entered to win. Right? I don't know. Don't take that. I feel like that has some legal, that specifically, like advertising that, posting about that might have some legal implications. So do your research on like giveaways and such, because there can be rules about that. But just those are good things to post about if you're looking for some posting inspiration. As far as Instagram and TikTok, they're not as bad. They're not that bad. Not as bad. They're not as good, but they're not terrible. You can still use them to grow locally, and especially among your younger audiences. But Instagram and TikTok, I feel like, are definitely made more for, sharing your post, or posting in general is much more for whoever happens to see it, as opposed to it being more targeted towards a community, if that makes sense, or like a local community. I hope that makes some sense. And so I definitely encourage you should definitely have a TikTok on Instagram, as well as a Facebook and a Nextdoor and such. But I definitely would encourage you to do a lot of like Facebooking as opposed to do a lot of TikToking, right? And I think that TikTok can be really good for growing, just growing as a social media person, just growing on social media. So growing on social media as a widespread thing. I'm going to lump YouTube into that as well, as far as Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And they can be really good. It could be another source of income, and you get to learn and teach about your industry. And those can be really good things. But as far as growing your business, that might not be something you really see the results. If you post on TikTok all the time, sure, you might gain like a lawn care customer from that, maybe. But I feel like the chances of that are slimmer. Not that it's a bad thing. Not that you shouldn't be posting on TikTok or posting on Instagram or posting on YouTube. Not that you shouldn't be doing that. It can be really great for growing your social media and just growing as a brand. But if you really want to like pick up customers, I wouldn't focus all my time on TikTok trying to pick up new customers for my local service business. Y'all, I am tired today. Right now, I'm tired. I feel like this episode had a lot of good content, but I feel like my delivery was not 10 out of 10 today. But that's all right. I'm not even going to recap, because I tried to recap already, and I'm tired. All right. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys got some value out of this. I really feel like this was one of my best episodes as far as the actual content, the actual value I'm putting out there for the episode, if that makes sense. I really do. I don't know what I was going to say. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, feel free to comment and like and share with others if you got some value out of this. I appreciate any of that. And I guess I'll be seeing you guys next week. Trying to think. This will go out the week of Thanksgiving. So I'm guessing that episode I talked about at the beginning, that like a more off-topic-y episode, will be coming out the week after Thanksgiving. Maybe it would be like episode 10.5 of the podcast. I want to say, yeah, we're gonna go with that. No promises. I'm just trying to figure that out in my head. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys have a lovely fall holiday, Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving next week. I'm hyped because I only got 2 days of school. So, W for me. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.